Hello, I'm David Hunt, and welcome to my little section on Bent TV. It's about important people within our community. Is the person I'm speaking to today important? Well, yes, he is. In his part of the world, he's such an important person. Who would have thought this little lad from suburban Melbourne, a cheeky little boy that he was as well, would have ended up being a legendary DJ here in Melbourne, so well known on that front. A remixer, a really interesting story there. That's where he's a naughty boy. Co-founder of Razor Nightclub, the legendary Razor Nightclub, and a record label as well. But before all of that, there was this other club night that he was involved in, and the police raided it, and they body searched people at the club, and it became very controversial and very, very well known. And a lot of those people sued, and the story will come out as we keep on talking. Gavin Campbell, hello.
Hi, David.
We're both laughing because we know each other very well. So all of a sudden we looked at each other and just immediately laughed. Now, naughty boy growing up.
Very naughty, but nice. What do you want to hear?
No, nothing. I was teasing about being naughty. When do you think that you realise that, like music and being a DJ?
When I was in primary school, I was actually buying records. My mum and dad would let me, mow the lawn, things like that.
For pocket money.
For pocket money.
Yep.
And knowing. And then I even took a summer job. We used to go down, St Leonard's on the Bellarine Peninsula.
Yeah.
We would go there with a caravan, and that was a lot of fun. And I took a job in the main store on the main street and bought myself a little cassette player.
Yeah.
That was, I think I was only about 11, 12. Mum, of course, took me to the shop and everything, but, it was just behind the counter like a summer job for a teenager sort of thing. Maybe I was 12. I don't know. But so there, and then I actually got bought a stereo not long after that for my bedroom. And so I was like mad about music.
Yep.
and buying it and collecting it.
What about realizing you were gay? Because a lot of this and what we're going to talk about later, the police raid and that was a gay night. But lots of the wonderful thing about Melbourne is the gay and straight community always go out together here.
Yeah.
But when did you realize the gayness in yourself?
Oh, I realized there was an attraction to other males when I was, before I was 10 years old, but I grew up in the western suburbs, so that all got buried.
Yep.
And I, would try to be straight. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't like being gay.
I don't think that would have worked very well.
This is true. Because, the boys at St Paul's in Altona called me Campbellina.
Hey.
And I used to hate it. And I had long hair.
Right.
It was almost a dolly cut because I loved Suzi Quatro. Listen to me. But I'm not interested in, and my mother, I was going to say, I never used to try to be feminine. I think I just was. But Mum used to sell wigs and was an Avon manager. She had all the reps under her.
Oh, ding dong.
Ding dong. And I still didn't get it. I don't do drag at all.
Right, no.
I need to be, dressed masculinely. T-shirts, really, usually. I wore a nice shirt for you today.
Oh, thank you.
But so the direct answer to that is it wasn't. I knew, but I didn't like being gay at all because of the western suburbs thing. It was all kind of rough.
And what about telling your mum? Was there a dad as well back
Dad,
then?
yeah.
Telling your parents? How did that go down?
Fine. They knew for years.
They knew?
And Mum was a little disappointed that I hadn't told her much earlier.
Oh, that often happens.
Yeah. I did apologise.
But it's a personal thing, Gavin, isn't it?
It's very
when
personal.
you're ready. With me, I came out very late in life. How old were you?
Well, I was just about to say I was about 36 or 37 when I talked about gay and me in the same sentence.
Right.
But
but hold on, you were hanging out in a gay scene.
Yeah, no, I know.
But as I said, the gays mix with the general community.
Yeah, for sure. But my sister knew. We'd go out and I'd talk about guys with her and all this kind of stuff, and of course they would have talked amongst each other, my family. but I just didn't have the balls to just say it,
Yep.
and
Yep.
talk about things.
Yep.
In fact, just before coming out, I had a girlfriend, and I did that deliberately because I hated. I mean, I didn't hate being gay, but I wanted to be straight so badly.
Really?
I thought I wanted kids.
Wow.
I realize now, why would you bring kids into this world? Unless you really, really, really wanted to be a parent.
It was 30 years ago that the Tasty raid happened.
Yep.
So here you are 30 years ago, but you weren't out then,
No,
but you were running a gay night.
I wasn't out to my parents. I was out.
Oh, okay.
I did, I didn't hide in the closet, like in my 20s, I was kind of a bit frigid. I didn't want gay sex or anything like that. You know what I mean? Like and I hung out in straight circles, but I had gay friends. Then in my 30s, that started changing. And like, as you know, I promoted clubs. I did club nights from 1983 to about 1998. So that's a good 16 years or something like that.
Yep.
And there were 7 of those 12 club nights that I did over that period. I had partners too, like co-promoters, but there was 7 of them that are still regarded. They're all regarded as influential, as good moments in Melbourne's nightclub timeline. But only one of them was gay. That's because
And which was that?
Tasty.
Tasty was anyone that was gay.
Yeah. All the others, a lot of gay people there,
Yep.
gay staff,
Yep.
all that kind of stuff.
There wasn't really a gay nightclub scene back then, so therefore the gays, I know I was, and the legendary one that you were involved in was Razor.
Yeah, Razor was
which
great.
was every Friday night at the car club on,
Yeah.
is it Kingsway?
Queen's Road.
Queen's Road. I always get what they're called along there.
There's that Melbourne Cricket Club. All
Yeah.
the lawns and stuff. It was
Yeah.
in that complex. The building fell down.
Yeah.
The ceiling caved in.
Yeah. To be involved in that, Gavin, was such a legendary event. People from around the world would be in Melbourne and would want to go to that. They'd heard about it and wanted to go to Razor. And you were part of it. You were one of the main DJs there and co-organizer of it as well, weren't you?
Yeah, I created that club with a woman named Jules Taylor,
Yep.
who had previously had the Hardware Club with a couple of gay men.
Right.
Paul Jackson and Andrew Main were her partners, and that was about 1984, I think, 3. It was opened just before my first venue, which was called Swelter, a little Tuesday night dance club in the city. This is before house music and all that. So it was soul and funk and kind of pop music. I mean, I remember we played Frankie Goes to Hollywood and things like that. And that was fun too. But Jules and I, when we shut those 2 clubs, because at that period, a club would be 1 or 2 years long, and the pop-ups like I'm talking about.
Yeah,
so
not the the big inflations or the metros
yeah,
and all that.
inflation and Chasers were already operating at that point, and Metro came along in 1987. I know that because I was in New York when it opened. That I couldn't go to this massive.
Oh well,
opening.
I was there.
You,
Sorry.
of course you were.
Yeah, should I speak to you now?
Stevie Wonder was there that night, and I was like, "Oh my god!" So that's an event. But anyway, I digress. Talking about other people's clubs.
Like Razor, did you in your wildest dreams ever imagine that it would end up being this legendary club?
Look, not really. I will say, though, I knew its value at the time.
Yep.
I knew what was going on. I thought, this is unique.
Yep.
And also because it was an underground club. It wasn't a mainstream thing. The music was very, very different to what you would find at Chasers and stuff like that.
Yep.
Although those clubs did start bringing in promoters
Yep.
and getting funky and stuff. But we did, actually, because, I remember even before, because we celebrated the first birthday, it was a really strong, very cool club. Lots of fashion and TV and arts industries were there. And we used to get a fair bit of media. Catherine Tay used to write for The Age at the time, The Weekender. Remember The Weekender?
Yeah, yeah.
And she interviewed me like once a year about Swelter, and then, well, yeah. So Swelter was about 2.5 years long, and we shut that purely because management there messed up our second birthday, so we walked out. And then I contacted Jules and said we need to do something, so we did. And Razor, What it did was it nurtured an underground type of thing where things would develop. Like DJs would come to Razor and see what was going on with the new music.
But also, what I liked about Razor was, like it was the rock and roll fraternity. In Excess would be there. I actually took a couple of guys from Nirvana there one night. But it wasn't a nightclub per se, like everyone dancing. There was a pool room, which was part of it anyway, and about 6 pool tables, really big ones, outside areas and all that. So therefore, you didn't have to be part of the dance music side of it. It was just a great hangout place, wasn't it?
That's exactly right, David. There was 4 or 5 different types of scenes all in this building.
And that's what made it so wonderful to be part of. But then you use the name for a record label that you still have to this day, Razor Records. But so I'm going to move on to this is where you become a naughty boy. Mushroom had an artist called, and you were part of Mushroom per se, with doing remixes and all that for them, Mushroom Records, of course, and Yotha Indies, Treaty, and you thought it needs a remix. It wasn't.
Yes. Well, the reason why, look, there was 2 reasons why I investigated Yotha Indian Treaty. One was because after a while, Mushroom had spent quite a bit of money, because my Razor label, all the record companies wanted it because dance music was huge overseas, but not here and on the charts and stuff. So they wanted someone who obviously knew about dance music, because Razor had already had it 4 years by the time the label came along. So we signed it to Mushroom, and Michael Gudinski. He was great. He's such an energy about him, and he put a lot of money into the thing, and not much was happening because we were quite ahead of the curve at the time. So he said, and then I just was like always hassling for money. So when I saw that they had an Indigenous band, I thought, can I listen to this? Because I had a little fascination with the Dreamtime, from watching, remember The Last Wave, the Peter Weir film? That was like really, and so I just said, I think I know it. We can remix this.
And so they wouldn't give you...
They didn't have the same vision.
Right. And so you got somebody came in the back door and stole them one
night. Yes.
Shocking.
Our mutual friend, Janine Kerr. I'm going to start naming her.
Who lives in LA as we speak. So you did this remix of Treaty, and then came back and handed it to them, and they went, "Oh, thanks, but you took it without our permission, so see you later."
They did it. It was a typical thing. Look, the music industry is really driven by ego. And to be the person to do this or to do that and have the hit.
But the amount of famous bands that never got signed, and would have to come through backdoor. Even the Beatles didn't get signed by any majors. Savage Garden, an Australian act, ended up being, millions of copies around the world. Couldn't get a deal here in Australia.
Yeah, this is true.
Exactly the same thing happened here. So anyway, they then released it, and it became a huge success.
Well, we played it. I've told this story with you before once, but I'll say it very quickly. There was a Christmas party one year, and when we finished making the remix of Treaty, my co-producers Robert Goodge and Paul Main did it with me. We were known as Filthy Luca. That was our production moniker. And as soon as it was done, it was like waking up sober the next day, and the intoxication of doing it was suddenly evaporated. And we were like, what have we done? We've actually taken their traditional, because we only took the traditional Yolnu elements, the Yidaki, which is the Yolnu name for didgeridoo, clapsticks, and the vocal manake, they call it, the Yolnu people, which means traditional song. So we took those basic elements and created, I wanted it to be trance music, but Robert Goodge is a particularly funky fellow with his guitar and stuff, so it just was very funky instead. Was there a question that I was meant to answer, or
Well,
do I
no,
just
no,
babble?
just the success of it then because of your mix, and but you never got the credit. Well, you
Oh,
got the
yes, of
credit
course.
for it, but
Well,
you didn't get any monetary assistance of what you created, which I always find really interesting. And to the extent now that you hear Treaty Now, and everyone reacts to it, everyone
yes.
knows it. Like, so congratulations on
Thank you,
what
David.
you did there, and the vision of stealing the
We had to,
masters
because they
to
said
do it.
no. Seriously, 6 months of nagging.
Yeah.
And Janine Kerr, she used to come to Razor every Friday, and
Yep.
she
Yeah.
loved it
With me.
with you.
Yep.
And Janine was in the business department. She was buddies with the head of business at what was his name? Simon Young.
Yep.
And so he was aware, and I knew he was because I stood in front of him at his desk one day. We nodded because he knew I had the tape. And so we demoed it. It took 3 months to make, and oh, that's right. I was saying there was a Christmas party, and so we basically manipulated Molly Meldrum that night,
Yep.
who had a few. We all had a few, and there was people from all around Australia who worked for Mushroom and Festival at this party because
Yep.
Gudinski had a brand new mansion. He'd bought two big things in Toorak, knocked them down and built this monstrosity, which was fabulous party house, but anyway, like a coliseum. And so Molly put the song on for me that night. I said, I've got this. I told him what it was. He put it on, and the rest is history. By Monday morning, they were like rubbing their hands, Mushroom, and I was left in the dust.
It's a wonderful part of Australian music history that you were involved in. And you even, a few years back now, went out on the road quite a bit with Yotha Indie when they were
Yes.
performing, which is, and did the DJ set before their or after their performance stuff. So, like it was a great story in itself. And I just wanted to, the amount of stuff that you've done is absolutely extraordinary.
Been a bit diverse, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Indigenous stuff,
Yeah,
clubs,
yeah.
and tasty.
Well, let's talk
Let's
about
go.
Tasty. So, what night of the week was it on?
It was Saturday nights, every
Yep.
Saturday night.
Yep. And where was it?
Well, we had 3 venues.
Right.
All up.
You got kicked out of each one? No, I'm joking.
No, we did. We did. Well, we kicked ourselves out of the
Yeah.
last one
Yep.
because it just had lost its.
Yep.
Okay, so we had a club called Temple on Friday night. After Razor shut, we moved into this place on Flinders Street, and that was fabulous, and we had the lease. So we had to have several nights of things going. I was working with Gavin Brown, James Eden, Paul Main, one of my old, 2 of my old Razor partners. Anyway, so we did this thing, and we had to have several nights to make it work, to pay the rent and everything. So because there were 4 out of the 7 of us were gay, we had to do a gay night, of course. So we did, and we called it Tasty, and it became really popular. We had a huge night. The theme was Prisoner, the TV show, Cell Block H, we called it, and that was massive. And then because we were behind in the rent, we got locked out on the Monday morning after this big Prisoner night because there was this big trend. It was a thing called Postcode 3000, which was incentives for people to come into the city and build apartments rather than all the empty offices. So we got thrown out of there, and that's when I went to the Commerce Club and said to Max Poyser, who used to run the Anglers Club. Remember that gay thing?
Yep.
Sundays was his main night. And he said, yeah, sure. And it had that maze in the basement.
So, what happened on this night when the police raided? Why do you think they did that?
There's a few reasons. In June that year, so the raid was in August, and in June, the casino opened. And, we were very close to the casino in Flinders Lane, that part of the city. So I've always felt that, Tasty was the most happening, talked about dance floor in Melbourne at the time. And straight people were going, gay people, especially the hospitality straight industry. And I just think they just wanted to get rid of it. And the operation was called Operation Maze. So casino, this is not good. Downstairs is sin bin, So they just came and raided it, and it was quite visceral. I wasn't actually present because I had 2 clubs to run on a Saturday night, and when I was leaving the first club that I was at, we got a phone call to say, "Oh, the raid's on." We knew the raid was going to happen, and because the gay police were ringing and warning us on the day, there's something happening tonight. Did I answer all that?
No,
I just babble, don't I?
So yeah, you do. But like, why do you think they took it to that level of searching people for obviously looking for drugs?
Looking for drugs. I would say that there was 50% homophobia and 50% desperation because there were no drugs to be found, thanks to our gay brothers and sisters ringing us during the day.
Yeah.
Like they probably... they went to the outer boroughs and grabbed all these outer suburban police who were very nasty when they were in the room, strip searching everybody in front of each other. It was totally illegal.
Which is totally illegal, and so
outrageous.
And was anyone arrested on the night?
There were 2, not really arrested, but there were 2 people that were going to be charged with possession. One of them had, I know this sounds silly, but one of them had an asthma inhaler, and the other one had a couple of Valium on him. And later he showed them the prescription that he had for those Valium.
Whoa.
So all that was, and the police actually said, I saw the 6 o'clock news the next night, and there was a cop on the TV saying that they'd found a suitcase full of drugs. I think they still thought that that we were a pushover.
But the thing is, it took a long time for people to go, hold on, this isn't right.
Yes.
Like we're going to take it further, and it, like there were trials over it, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was a court case, a class action. I think there was like 250 people in that class action alone, and they won. A very brave woman from Sydney, or she moved to Sydney, Sally Gordon. She put her house up as collateral, and she was the test case. Because the firm that were having the case, there was a fellow named Gary Singer who worked at this firm. He became a councillor on Melbourne City Council.
Yes. And
so he and his associates were running the lawsuit, and they won, and everybody got a payout. But we're all indebted to Sally Gordon for.
But what does it mean as well? Like it was back in the days where, as you said, they were the police from the outer suburbs who were anti-gay and all that, and were deliberately brought in to make it tough. But also the fact is that you got the heads up on it before, so there was no drugs there.
So there were no drugs.
There was no drugs.
And that's the desperation that they ended up in.
And the police had to eat humble pie. And it was years later, wasn't it?
Well, the case went through the courts for a couple of years, and so it was still in the. It's the whole of Australia knew about this raid. I can still say Tasty Raid to people over 40, and most of them know it. And of course, a lot of the young LGBTQI plus community now know about it.
Yeah.
But because it's become more and more legendary, and it's regarded as Melbourne's Stonewall moment.
Yeah, well, I was literally going to say that. So every 10 years, you you do not a celebration, you remember it.
We commemorate it.
Yeah.
We feel that we poke fun at it too, to be honest, especially with our promotions.
Yeah.
We feel that we need to. You know how we've claimed the word queer?
Yep.
And things like that, and PUFTA, so we've done that with the raid as well.
Yep.
And when we had the 20th anniversary in 2014, we did that at Chasers, and that was just a wild over the top.
And you're actually saying that a lot of young people heard about it, or through that 20th anniversary.
Yes.
Thought, I want to go to this. I want to be part of this. And now all of a sudden, you're up to 30 years.
We're up to 30, and it's a highly, it's been really embraced doing an anniversary. But at the time of the 20, I think what might have kicked it into the next level of awareness in Melbourne, the Victoria Police, 3 days before we had that party, they apologised publicly on television.
That's right. That's
They held a
right.
press for all the media were there,
Whoa.
and we didn't even. I was told by one of the lawyers who was actually at the raid that there was something going down and there was going to be a public apology, and it was a really huge moment. They'd never done that before.
Yep. Yep.
Since then, they've I think, was it Stolen Generations or something else? There's been another apology
Yep.
from Victoria Police. I should know this.
Yep.
So that was unprecedented at the time, and I've called the police to just to let them know what we're doing.
So you're staging an event
Yeah.
for the 30th anniversary on the 10th of August.
10th of August, because the raid was on the 7th of August.
Right,
So
okay.
the closest Saturday to that is
Yeah.
the 10th.
And you're holding it at one of the legendary venues that was so big in the 80s and early 90s, Inflation Nightclub.
Inflation's a fantastic institution, isn't it?
I just love the fact that it's still
It's
happening.
still there.
Yeah.
You know that a lot of King Street was bought up by a big company. I don't know who it is or what, but they want the whole street. And Martha and Pat at Inflate, they've been holding out, and which is great. I'm glad they have, because
Yeah.
it's become a little bit of a haven for queer parties.
Yep.
Trough, Barber, there's one called Hanky, which Eagle Leather do. They're all at Inflation.
Yeah.
And now Tasty.
Well, congratulations on
Thank you.
keeping it going. Congratulations on your incredible career in the music
Thank you,
industry.
David.
So, and you'll have fun on the
We're going to have fun.
10th of August.
Yeah. We've got Yummy doing a special show in the
Right.
cafe.
Okay.
There's about 5 of the Yummy people.
Yeah,
And more Davey.
brilliant,
and
brilliant,
Androgyny.
brilliant.
It's going to be fun.
Thanks for chatting with us today.
Thank you, David.
I'm David Hunt. He's Gavin Campbell, and we'll be back again next month. See you, folks.